Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and we've been doing Charter Moms chats on weekdays to talk to families about what y'all need to know to keep your kids learning during the pandemic, and all the issues we've been facing. And before we went on the air, I was talking with our guest, Patricia Ramirez. She's the principal at St. Anthony Catholic School, which is it's a beautiful historic school. It's in the Monte Vista neighborhood of San Antonio. And so she has experience in Catholic education, and she is a graduate of St. Mary's University. So I'm very glad to have you here, Patricia. We're going to talk about
Thank you.
the St. Anthony School. But like before we came on the air, we were talking about like what impact COVID has had on our kids, that it's going to have a lasting impact, and some of the signs are not as visible. So anyway, I'm sort of putting this in context of Charter Mom Chat is something I started about a year ago. Because I couldn't have in-person events, and I wanted to, keep connecting with our community and sharing information I thought people needed. And what Patricia and I were talking about is just how things are changing. Like, we still need information, we still need to help each other, but it's kind of a different set of problems that we're going to be addressing. So thank you so much for joining me.
No, you're welcome. I'm excited to be here. Share something about what Catholic schools are all about, and St. Anthony's, and also hopefully giving some insight as to what schools have been going through during this time.
Yeah. So Patricia, I wanted to thank you so much for writing a beautiful guest post for the SA Charter Moms blog. It's sachartermoms.com if anyone is seeing the video but maybe hasn't been to the blog before. But that's our new post today. And you titled it "A Fresh Look at Catholic Education."
Right.
And that's what we really want people to be thinking about, is like, maybe they have preconceived ideas about Catholic education, and you address those in the in the post. And but I think like the part of it that really struck me was sort of this vision about Catholic education and what it means for a student to be successful. That it's not just material success, but it's also like what kind of person they become. And I was wondering if you could talk more about that.
Sure. When as new parents, we're looking at these, beautiful, babies, and we start thinking about the baby's entire future. What will my child do? I would like my child to be successful. I would like for them to be able to, live a comfortable life. All of those things that we want to impart upon our children. But we also have to think about those things that I called, those intangibles. We want them to be good people. Everyone wants them to be good people. We want them to be able to make good moral choices. We want them to have a spiritual foundation, for those that, of course, want to impart that on their children. The beauty of Catholic schools is that all of that can happen within the educational environment, right alongside with the parents. We teach the parents are the first educators, and that is very true. We want them to be able to, grow up making, good ethical choices, and our schools provide a perfect opportunity to do that and to live it day by day.
Yeah, one of the things you touched on in the post is that, like, one of the ways that the students show their faith is through acts of service. And it's often incorporated, it's not just like a big production or whatever, but it's like treating their classmates and how they treat their neighbors, and showing compassion. And that really struck me, because I feel like, again, it's like this, I'm thinking a lot about like these times we're living in, and what it means, like how we treat each other.
Exactly. One of the things that, and for myself, I grew up in public schools, and my first, my first experience in Catholic school system was as a teacher. And one of the things that really struck me was the time that is spent in making sure that the children understand that there are things that are very important that are outside of themselves. How do you bring children that just by, human nature tend to be, egotistic, and that's not a negative. That's just the way it is. The world
just developmental
around them, right? when you have, for example, as the students are getting older and their peer relationships become very important, and again, that egocentricity can start, really, coming into being. When you have middle schools, for example, as isolated educational systems where they don't have those interactions with the younger students and they don't see how it all comes together, that can be a challenge because it's a challenging set of years for the students as it is. And so we try to have the students live through acts of service. And those, like you said, they don't have to be big things. And it's not just about bringing the can of food, but what are our expectations for you? Buddying up the students, our older students with our younger students, draws them outside of themselves. Often we might find, where we might have, let's say, a middle schooler that, might not make the best decisions all the time, but then be so gentle and so caring when we pair them up with a younger one, because now they are looking out for that little one. In a smaller school community, they can often, see each other, outside or at lunch. And I cannot tell you how many times, the older student will, acknowledge the little one and, hi, how are you doing? Or the little one might come up for a hug, pre-COVID, of course. And that, I mean, that's a very valuable educational experience in our mind as well. We have given that opportunity for the student to shine in those ways. And that's very special for us.
Yeah. And so the campus at St. Anthony Catholic School, it goes up to 8th grade, right? And it
Yes,
starts
K
with
through 8.
pre-K. What age of pre-K?
2 years old.
2 years old. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I've driven by through the neighborhood and I see like the little kids playing on the playground, and it's so
Mm-hmm.
sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But in the blog post, we've got a picture of the big kids. They just look so. I have an 8th grader myself, my son, my oldest, and it's just amazing how much they change at that age,
In the
and
blink of
just
an eye. That's right.
hmm
That's right.
hmm and what big ideas and what kinds of questions they have at that age. It's really
Oh,
remarkable.
yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to ask you about you touched on this in the post, but and you mentioned this a moment ago that like it's woven into the curriculum to talk about faith and service. And I was wondering if you could maybe give some examples about like how faith and service are present on campus and how you ensure that students are learning those values.
Well, we talked about, providing opportunities within the school day, for students to come together and help each other out. We have, service opportunities just as, with the school as a whole. We are currently, collecting baby items and, hygiene products for Catholic charities. As we know, with the immigration situation, there's a giant need for that. And so, regardless of how you might feel about the situation, there is still that humanitarian need to provide the very basics. And so that's what we focus on. And the students understand that no matter how much we have, or if we feel we might not have a whole lot, there are others that are in more need than us. So, one example, we had a neighbor that had a fire, and the entire school came together to help out the neighbor. We do that, among our families as well, through, what we call, Saints of Mercy. There's also times that we use prayer, for example, to bring others into the fold. When we are disciplining, we also think about reconciliation. And it's not about the punishment. It is not about, just serving your consequence. But now, how do we bring you back into the fold? How do we reconcile? Because that is how that's how we want to model, all of those pieces. And then we start seeing it coming out in the children as time goes on. Then they might, spontaneously ask, can we pray for someone? Can we do this? All of those things bring them and show how interconnected they are with those around us.
Yeah, that's so important. I think it's like you said, it's not their fault. Like, kids are, they're human, and when they're young, they do tend to focus on themselves. The world is overwhelming and confusing, but part of how we want to shape our children, whether like as parents or as teachers, is to be more aware of the world around
Yes.
them and to be caring towards the people in their lives, and to to appreciate what they have themselves and realize that there are people who have less and who need our help.
And we
And
still have, we still have religion class, of course, that is part of our curriculum. Um, and we, recognize, holy days of obligation, special, celebrations days. But at the same time, we are not, uh, we're not just a community of Catholics. We have people from all faiths that are here with us and journeying with us through this educational endeavor. And it really does nothing but enrich, one another when that happens. And we have been able to do that successfully with families that are non-Catholic, and some not even from the Judeo-Christian, religions. And it's really all about having that, those universal, moral values.
yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, that's an important thing to stress, is that Catholic schools are not only for children who are
Not
already
at all.
members of the Catholic Church. Yeah, that it's open broadly, but that it's important though for them to appreciate, like, the kind of like moral messages that students are getting. And but what you said, that these are universal values. These are things like, kindness and service and
Right.
reconciliation. These are things we can all benefit from. And that's why, I think the title is very apt, like a fresh look at Catholic education. That it's not so much about like, oh, it's so strict, and like there are all these rules, right? But it's more about, kindness and caring, and looking at the world, looking at the broader world.
In many ways, right. It's, I mean, there are some things that are eternal, and then there are others, that, of course, people have in mind, for example, the nuns. There's always that running joke, right, of, the nuns and the ruler and things like that. It's just not like that. It, we are very much focused on academic excellence and making sure that students are, that we're giving the children the tools that they need to be the 21st century learners that they are. I mean, there's just so much more.
Yeah, no, I remember, like, pre-COVID. I remember going to down to the convention center to see a
Mhm.
robotics competition, and I was so impressed by the enthusiasm, like the teamwork on the Catholic schools teams, like the team from Central Catholic. Like they were just amazing. They had so much spirit, and they had
Yeah,
like so many robots, like so elaborate. And it's something where, yeah, it's like you just, um, yes, Catholics can be really into science too, right?
that's right. We have no argument with science.
Yeah, and seeing like the joy from the students, and the teamwork, and like how they all supported each other, and they all specialized, like, yeah, it was really inspiring. And like that kind of planted a seed in my mind of yeah, that it's worth taking a closer look at the Catholic schools, and looking at where they are now, not about preconceptions about what they are. um
Right.
I wanted to ask you about, like, things that y'all, speaking of technology, like how you all have adapted to the pandemic. Like, 'cause it's been over a year now, and I know you've had students on campus for a significant amount of time, but there are students who have participated in distance learning, and I also know that you guys were able to turn around very quickly and
Right.
reopen the schools. Whereas some schools, it took a little bit longer, after that very long spring break, right?
Right. No, that's one of the beauties of a smaller school environment, is how we are able to more quickly pivot to meet the needs of our families. And so, it was right around spring break, of course, last year that we were getting the news, and we actually had a group of, well, we had our eighth graders on their Washington D.C. trip, and so there, I mean, it was quite something. It was quite something. But because we were already working on uh, the Google for Education, that had already been happening since the fall prior. We were able to quickly pivot because we already had the accounts and so forth. But we did basically like a boot camp for our teachers that week after spring break. Everyone was given that week after
Mhm.
spring break to basically uh, change education, change the way we teach, change everything. Um, I have to admit, I have not thought too much about that time and everything that it took to get there. We just know it happened because all of us as a collective were focused, hyper focused on making this work for the children, for the students. We didn't have time to worry and be afraid. We had to get ready for them. And so, it was a challenge. We were able to get what we needed for the teachers to be able to teach from home. And then we got it started. Again, we have a close relationship with our families. And so we were always soliciting feedback, good and bad. We wanted to hear all of it so that we can then further hone, what we were doing. And so that's how we were able to get through the spring and through a lot of communication. And then when we came back in the fall, through the Archdiocese, the decision was made to offer in-school instruction. And again, I really credit the fact that we are a small, school, relatively speaking, compared to public schools who have to then deal with a public school district, to have to be able to answer to and everything. We were able to make good, sound decisions based on our family's needs and in conjunction with the Archdiocese and working with CDC and even taking a look at what TEA was doing. And we were able to get students on campus, with all the protocols in place. The families always had a choice, and they continue to have a choice whether to be virtual or in school. And so, we started slowly, but we never took a step back. We never took a step back. So we have been successful in it. I'm not going to say we have not had cases because I don't think there's a school in the nation that has not. However, we did not have outbreaks. We did not, have to deal with, large scale, issues, having to do with COVID. We were able to contain and we were strict. We were very strict about, our policies. And our parents were just wonderful every step of the way, making sure that if their children were not feeling well, they were keeping them home. But I marvel at how much really was accomplished during all of this time. I would say that right now we have about 75% of our students on campus, and the others are virtual.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think we're all sort of still like processing our recollections over the past year, but like it makes so much sense what you're saying about it's a small school community and there's strong relationships between the school and the families and the teachers. There were already some of the pieces in place like Google Classroom, and
Right.
the teachers stepped up and learned very quickly how to deliver stuff virtually. And then as I've interacted more with Catholic schools, I've learned like there's a high level of autonomy that each campus has in the decision making, but there's also a good amount of support and guidance from the Archdiocese about best practices for schools. And so like that partnership worked well, that you've been able to take care of the needs of families, but you've had guidance and support from the Archdiocese about, okay, this is how we're going to open campuses and this is how we're going to welcome families back and give them that option. And I guess as the community spread has gone down and as there's fewer COVID cases in the community, then more families, I imagine, feel safe bringing their kids on campus and kind of seeing the track record that, there's not spread on campus. So, let's get kids back on campus so they can see their friends and have the kind of emotional support that they need.
And that really, we had to keep that at the forefront of our minds. The fact that we, were already in danger of losing that precious academic time with the students, and understanding that virtual instruction is not for everyone. Some students that is a good option and they can thrive in it, but for a lot of our kids and just they need that interaction, they need that face-to-face time. It's very interesting that among our preschool, because of the teachers wearing the masks, and so much is dependent on the children being able to see the formation of the, for the sounds, the phonics, all of those things. I mean, it was a challenge. Mm.
I don't think I was aware of that before about the like the issue with like, masks and covering faces and how it affects like people's facial
The
expressions.
whole
And
face.
I hadn't really thought about it that much, that it's like, oh, that is a problem, right? Yeah, like they're really trying to like sort out all those sounds, and it's so
Right.
much new information. Yeah. Yeah. Boy, well, what a year. Yeah. I mean, academically, you've tried to keep kids, making progress as much as possible. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And on the topic of academics, I want to ask you more about the Spanish immersion program at St. Anthony, because
Yes.
that's actually a question that comes up repeatedly in the Facebook discussion group.
Mhm,
Actually, I'm
mhm.
gonna pop this up. If anybody watching the video is not already a member, I invite you please join the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook, because if you have questions, it's a great way to like kind of crowdsource information from other families. So we've had several questions recently about dual language programs, but in the blog post you mentioned that there's a Spanish immersion program at St. Anthony.
Yes, and we had done so much planning and research. We invited members, from the university, Trinity University, University of Incarnate Word. We really spent a lot of time with the research. We visited campuses, in Alamo Heights and Comal ISD, and I mean, just everything in preparation. Again, to meet the needs of the community, we have found, and as like you're saying, there's a lot of interest in it. And I think more and more the word is getting out that, for students that are bilingual, I mean, just the cognitive, just cognitively, they really are able to be more flexible and be, better problem solvers and approach things from different angles and all of this. What we found was that there really was not a private Catholic school option for Spanish immersion. So there's a difference between that and
Mhm.
dual language, for example, that another Catholic school has done a fantastic job with. But as far as Spanish immersion and as a private option for families that would want a faith based education to go all the way through fifth grade. And so one of the challenges for us, of course, is that we were all getting ready to, to launch it, and then of course COVID happens. But we decided to move forward because we already had families that were interested in the program. We did some informational meetings um, to let families know what it was all going to be about. So no, we this is our first year with it. We start off with 50% Spanish, 50 English in K3. Uh, Most of the schools, public schools, will start, kinder or first grade. We wanted to give them that additional time to get more acquainted with the language by the time they have to go and be language learners. This was all about acquisition with the little ones. And so it starts off with 50-50, then in K4 it moves up to 70-30, Spanish and English, 80-20 in kinder, and then finally it peaks at 90-10 in first grade. Then it starts tapering down until they get to 50-50 in fifth grade. So it's been great. If you have viewers out there that maybe have done some, some research on it, there are always, some things to, just to expect and be on the lookout for. So, for example, at the very beginning, a student might be kind of go through a silent period, or they might be a little more tired than normal when they go home, just because the brain is working so hard with that language acquisition. And so families need to just, rest assured that they have to kind of think about that whole, the long-term gain, and not get scared and want to turn away because at the very beginning they might be seeing some things. However, with our teachers, and these are teachers that have been with us for a few years, they're native Spanish speakers, and they are just very nurturing. They're so nurturing, and they, the children are singing, they're rhyming, they're doing all kinds of things, a lot of play that goes along with this, that we, in our situation for this year, we really have not seen some of those um, uh, I don't know, I don't want to call them negative effects, but just some of those uh, issues that might be a drawback for a family. We're very happy to say that, for example, our kindergartners are already reading 2 and 3 syllable words and are understanding what they are reading. And so it's really has been great to see. It's really been something positive for us as a school.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah, I've read as well about the like cognitive benefits of
Mhm.
yeah, like if kids are learning English and learning Spanish and they're it's like it stretches their mind, just like how, you know, like when kids are able to travel when they're older, right? Or like as young adults and
Correct.
you see how
Yes.
other cultures operate, you know, like realizing that language, there's a much broader range of languages out there, how languages
Mhm.
work. And you know, but and it's laying that foundation so that I mean, you know, San Antonio is a bilingual city, and you know, so much of the culture and business, you know, involves contact with Mexico and countries in Latin America. You know, so it's opening doors for kids. But I have talked to families who, you know, made the commitment to a Spanish immersion program, and they talked about times where like, oh, I didn't know how to help with the homework, or you know, or
That's
yeah,
one
they
of the
seemed really
biggest
tired.
questions. Yes. Yes. That's one of the biggest questions is about the homework.
Yeah, but what I hear from families is that it's like if you stick with it, like the kids they do, you know, like if they have issues like feeling a little confused or quiet or extra tired, like you know, that if you stick with it, it pays off. And it sounds like that with the set of teachers that y'all have, that they're right being nurturing and like having that deep
Mhm.
like native speaker knowledge, like that they're able to support the kids in a really good way.
Right, right, right. Some programs are stricter than others, and so there really is something for everyone. You know, the teachers, you know, when the child, you know, the children are learning to be a little, to be able to respond more in Spanish now, which is something at the beginning of the year, you know, they were not doing. But the teacher will translate into English if they need to. I mean, there's no sense in stressing out the child, you know, throughout this because it's a long process, and we want them to be able to get to that finish line.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's wonderful. I think that's another area where I hope that you know, maybe people didn't realize that there were, you know, so many you know, different curriculum options among the Catholic schools in San Antonio, right? That there's a dual language program at a different school, but that right at St. Anthony, if you know, if you really want kids to grow up bilingual, bicultural, that they can experience Spanish immersion, but in a,
Right.
you know, a faith-based program.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm so thankful for the blog post and for you taking the time to, you know, talk to me about about St. Anthony Catholic School. I want to make sure that families, like, I hope that they've enjoyed what they've been hearing, and if they're curious, I want you to tell them more about like how they can take a tour, how they can get more information, how they can enroll their kids. This is where I'm going to pop the website up on the screen.
Yes, thank you, because
StAnthonySA.org.
it's a little long. So stanthonysa.org. You can go on to you know, the website and just see everything that we have to offer. We are you know, taking enrollments for next school year. We are still keeping our classes small, which is, you know, another thing is that we are having, you know, the small class sizes because of social distancing, and so we are looking at, you know, a couple of our classes already getting ready to close. So if you're at all interested, you know, please, you know, feel free to come on to the site, and there is an RSVP there if you want to come take a tour, or even if you want to just give us a call. I mean, and again, you know, we'd be happy to, you know, talk further to our families about, you know, whether it's Spanish immersion or our middle school program, which is very strong, you know, our elementary. You know, we'd be happy to just, you know, provide you with that information. And we also have a summer program that we just opened up for registration. So
Yeah, that's what you know. I'm just so encouraged that like how the world is reopening, and you know, like
little
kids
by
are able
little.
to connect with each other. Yeah, right. And you know, but and as you said, you've talked about like, you know, the steps you've taken to keep kids safe and, you know, following good procedures. So you know, so we just have to adapt to a new way of being, but we
Right,
don't have to be as strictly locked down as we were like last year, like in March and April, when there was just so much we didn't know. Um,
right, right. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, but you know, St. Anthony Catholic School has adapted and you know, found ways to, you know, whether it's through technology or keeping kids safe on campus, like find ways to keep learning and,
Mhm, mhm.
keep building community, keep helping kids learning about faith and service and being a good neighbor and, those little acts of kindness about, I love thinking about like kids asking if they can pray for another student. Like
It
that
was
just
quite
touches my heart.
spontaneous. It was quite spontaneous, and it really touched me. I was like, "We're doing something right." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's when when you can catch those little moments of when the learning comes back, it gets reflected back, and you're like, "This is
Mhm.
working."
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, on that note, I'm gonna pop up the website one more time. So it's stanthonysa.org, and that's how families can, contact you. They can set up a tour, find out more about the campus, maybe get enrolled for either the summer program or for next fall, like, age
Yes,
2 up to 8th grade.
up to 8th grade. That's right. And a lot of them have been with us right from the beginning, and it's really like a second home.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me on Charter Moms Chats. I hope everyone check the link in the description. It'll take you to the blog post that Mrs. Ramirez wrote. And yeah, thank you so much. I look forward to visiting the campus sometime in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.